Welcome, friends. Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Let me take you to a place where the sea whispers secrets and the cliffs hold stories that should never be unearthed. A place where the line between myth and reality blurs and the air itself feels heavy with something wrong. This is the story of a remote cottage perched on the cliffs of Cornwall, overlooking the restless Atlantic Ocean. A place so isolated that the nearest village is a 20-minute drive down a winding, treacherous road. The kind of place where the wind howls like a warning and the waves crash against the rocks below as if trying to drown out the cries of something long forgotten. The cottage, known locally as Seawood's Rest, had a reputation. The locals whispered about it, but no one dared speak too loudly. It was said to be cursed, though no one could quite agree on the details. Some claimed it was haunted by the spirits of sailors lost at sea. Others spoke of strange lights seen flickering in the windows at night, even when the cottage was empty. But the most chilling tale was of the hidden door, a door that led to a cavern beneath the cliffs, where something ancient and vengeful waited. This is where our story begins. It was spring 2024 when the milkman noticed something odd. The milk bottles left on the doorstep of Seawood's Rest had not been taken in for days. Concerned, he reported it to the local police. The police, in turn, contacted the solicitor responsible for the property, a man named Mr. Hargrove. Hargrove was a peculiar figure, always impeccably dressed, with a demeanor that was both polite and unnervingly cold. He was the emergency contact for the cottage, and it was his job to ensure everything was in order. When Hargrove arrived at the cottage, he moved with a purpose. He wasn't there to investigate Serena, the previous tenant, who had mysteriously disappeared. No, Hargrove had other priorities. He unlocked the front door and stepped inside, the air stale and heavy. The cottage was eerily silent, save for the faint sound of the waves crashing far below. He made his way to the back of the house, where a hidden door was concealed behind an old bookshelf. Sliding the shelf aside, he revealed the door, its wood warped with age, a rusty key hanging beside it. Hargrove descended the narrow staircase behind the door, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, he entered a cavern that opened onto a hidden beach. The sound of the sea echoed eerily in the enclosed space, and there, waiting in the shadows, was Marina. Marina was no ordinary mermaid. Her beauty was haunting, her eyes like twin abysses that seemed to pull you in. Her voice, when she spoke, was a melody that could freeze the blood in your veins. She was vengeful, cursed to remain in this cavern, luring the unsuspecting to their doom. Hargrove was her liaison to the outside world, bringing her victims in exchange for something. No one knew what he gained from this arrangement, but it was clear he was deeply entwined in her dark web. "I found someone," Hargrove said, his voice echoing in the cavern. "A man with no family, no ties. He won't be missed." Marina's lips curled into a chilling smile. "Good. I grow impatient." The next day, Sam arrived in the village. He was Serena's closest friend, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had happened to her. Before she disappeared, she had called him, her voice trembling with fear. She spoke of strange occurrences in the cottage, whispers in the night, objects moving on their own, and a door that appeared and disappeared at will. Then the line went dead, and he hadn't heard from her since. Sam checked into the local inn, where he met Jayne, a young barmaid with a fascination for the macabre. Jayne had been researching the history of Seawood's Rest for a book she was writing. When Sam mentioned Serena's disappearance, Jayne's eyes lit up with a mix of curiosity and concern. "I've been looking into that cottage for months," she said. "There's something off about it. The locals won't talk, but I found old records, shipwrecks, disappearances, even a murder. It's like the place is cursed." Sam and Jayne decided to team up. The next morning, Sam collected the keys from Hargrove, who seemed almost too eager to hand them over. There was something unsettling about the man, but Sam couldn't quite put his finger on it. When Sam and Jayne arrived at the cottage, the atmosphere was oppressive. The air felt thick, and the sound of the waves below seemed louder than it should have been. They spent the day exploring the house, finding little of note, until they visited a local charity shop. There, among the shelves, were items that had belonged to Serena. When they asked the shopkeeper where the items had come from, he mentioned that Hargrove often brought in belongings from tenants who had moved on. That night, after a simple dinner and a few glasses of wine, they fell asleep in the living room. But their rest was short-lived. They were woken by a strange sound, a low, melodic hum that seemed to come from beneath the floorboards. Jayne was the first to notice the door. It hadn't been there before. A rusty key hung beside it, just as Serena had described. Against their better judgment, they opened the door and descended the staircase. The air grew colder with each step, and the hum grew louder, transforming into a haunting melody. At the bottom, they found the cavern, just as Serena had described. The hidden beach glowed faintly in the moonlight, filtering through cracks in the cliff above. And then they saw her. Marina emerged from the shadows, her beauty both mesmerizing and terrifying. Her song filled the cavern, a melody so enchanting that Sam felt himself drawn toward her. But Jayne, who had read the old legends, knew what to do. "Cover your ears!" she shouted, pulling Sam back. Marina's song grew louder, more desperate, as the cavern began to shake. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and the ground beneath their feet cracked. They ran, the staircase crumbling behind them. As they reached the top, the entire cottage began to collapse, swallowed by the earth as the cavern caved in. The next morning, the villagers found nothing but a gaping hole where the cottage had once stood. Hargrove was gone, his whereabouts unknown. Sam and Jayne, shaken but alive, left the village vowing never to return. But the sea keeps its secrets, and the waves still crash against the cliffs as if trying to drown out the cries of something long forgotten. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, Marina waits.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.